Hello, everyone. Just starting to let people in from the waiting room. Thank you all for joining us. We'll give our participants another minute or two to get in and get settled. Feel free to turn on your cameras if you'd like. Okay, I think I have just about everyone in from the waiting room that has joined us. Welcome.
Okay.
Okay, and you can all see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Leslie, if you can hear us, would you like to go ahead and welcome everybody, and then we can start off with the video when you're ready?
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Welcome, everyone. We're very excited to have you join us this afternoon. I apologize. I'm in a car driving, but I'm excited to get a chance to meet all you and with my colleagues, tell you a little bit more about Country Roads. So with that, I think a good start is this great video that Melina and her team has developed, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Hey, let's see. How can I get this back over here? Oops. Just 1 second.
My name is Abby Tent. I'm from Morgantown, West Virginia.
My name is Abby, and I'm from Lansville, Maryland.
I'm originally from Michigan, but I did move to Georgia 2020.
My name is Sam, and I'm from Annapolis, Maryland.
I wanted to join the Country Roads program to get the experience of what it's like to be in college.
It has been my dream.
The reason I chose the school is because I wanted to become a college student, and I like the program. So.
What made me decide to join the WVU program is that I've seen a lot of other students here by getting loud and then like doing this horns down thing.
I have learned time management skills, a better way to communicate with people, and getting better at asking for help.
Have friendships.
Relationships, what's healthy and what's not healthy. Communication. You learn to communicate as far as like tell your partner like how to communicate with what you want and stuff like that.
I learned a lot about the meal plan in my first week. Yeah, and riding the PRT, I knew how to ride it from place to place.
Something I've learned is to be more independent.
Yeah, I like doing some jobs here, like doing childcare.
Mostly homework.
Homework?
Yeah.
How to cook and making friends and stuff.
Yeah, I've learned how to become a student maniac, and I've also learned how to like get student tickets on my own. I request them online. I've even learned how to do cooking classes. It's like one of the coolest cooking classes I've ever done. I learned how to cook how to cook some like some pies and stuff.
Going to up all night and spending time with my friends at the rec center.
I went to all the football games in the fall, and now I'm going to all the West Virginia basketball games.
I enjoyed up all night.
My favorite thing on campus is going to Bible studies, going to Apple night, and having friends.
But one of my favorite things to do is go bowling.
Like watching West Virginia sports because it makes me feel like a big fan.
Just everything about it.
Everything?
Just being the first cohort group.
Meaning that teachers.
Being independent, mostly figuring out things on my own and not relying on somebody to do them for me.
My favorite part has been doing all my hard work and getting good grades in school because I always do my assignments at the right due date, so I get them done early enough, and I know that I have a lot of A's.
I'm proud of being able to do this program. I never thought I would be able to go to college, but I've proved myself wrong and I was able to do it. And I was able to set my mind to it, and I was able to accomplish it.
Yeah, I'm proud of myself living here and getting along well with other people. That's my biggest accomplishment.
Being on time and having good grades.
Taking the bus. Yeah, taking the PRT, getting around campus really well. So
So my huge accomplishment is like getting on the PRT and then just like getting around campus.
more independent, more being my own, more learning how to take care of myself and be able to live my life.
I think I feel like a superstar myself.
I would tell them, if somebody was thinking about joining the Country Roads program, I would tell them that it's a very good program and it will help you achieve anything you would want to achieve in life.
I would say do apply for this program. It's been a great ride, great program.
I would say I would love it if you would apply to this program.
Follow your heart.
Study hard, make sure you work hard, and make sure you turn all your homework assignments in.
Do not stay up too late when you know you have to get up the next morning.
Okay. Just give me 1 minute, Leslie, and I'll get the PowerPoint back up for you.
Okay, thank you so much. You know, while we're getting situated, if people want to and are comfortable doing so, if you want to put your name in the chat, maybe even some questions that you know you're going to want to ask us later, we can start getting those to you. But thank you, Melina. I see it's up. Okay. So let's you know, hopefully that video gave you a little bit of the experience that our students have in the program. Our students would have loved to have been here to meet you all, and definitely plan to do so as soon as they can. They were very excited about incoming students and to share their experiences, and they've done a lot. So let's talk a little bit about what they've been doing. Can you hear me okay, Melina?
Yes.
Okay. So this first slide is just a brief overview, and many of you have seen some of this on the website even. But the idea is that Country Roads is definitely a higher education program, and it is the first in West Virginia of its kind, and it's at West Virginia University. It has been an on-campus opportunity, and by that, we mean that students live in a dorm room their first year and then transition to off-campus housing, and they experience with support that transition and what that's like. And particularly the dorm here, if you have a chance, and I think it is on our website, Lincoln Hall is the dorm. That's the honors dorm that's on campus. And it's readily available. It's on Evansdale campus, and I think we'll have some pictures of it and can go into that a little bit more here in a little bit. But essentially, and you saw this also in the video, the program incorporates academic coursework, experiential learning or learning workplace shadowing, rotations that's on campus and off campus. They engage with other students, other faculty, other staff in any type of activity that you would normally get into when you are attending college. And then as the last bullet I mentioned, your real world work experiences. We try to identify each student's interest areas, tag that to exposure and experiences while they're on campus, and then others off campus, ultimately leading them to a placement, getting them ready for the workforce once they leave the program. Next slide.
Hi, I'm Lucy Thompson. I'm the coordinator for the Country Roads program, and I'm going to talk to you for just a few minutes about the 3 focused areas of the curriculum here for the Country Roads program. The very first one is occupational preparation, and you know, this is a big part of our program. We want the students to discover all the different careers that they have the opportunity to pursue. And also, you know, talking to them and getting them to realize what skills they need to go into those different fields. The second area that we focus on in our curriculum is independent living skills. And this is a big one. You know, students are going to be living in a dorm for the first time. They're going to have to take care of laundry, learn how to use the PRT to get around campus, you know, really work on those time management skills, getting themselves out of the dorm to their first class and to all the different activities that are available here on campus. The last focus area of our curriculum is social interaction skills. And, you know, the students, again, they're moving into a dorm, they're having to learn how to get along with that roommate. They're interacting not only with the students that are in the program, but students all over the campus and the peer mentors and the faculty. So there's a lot of growth in all 3 of those areas, and that's where we focus, where our focus is. Okay, the next slide. Okay, you're going to see in a few minutes an actual sample schedule, but I want to kind of bring in the fact that we take those 3 focused areas and we use those to develop lessons and activities to teach the focus areas of the curriculum. The first one is social interaction. And when you see the schedule in a little bit, you're going to notice that there's lots of opportunities for the students to talk with faculty, with other students, to kind of get an idea of what careers they're interested in. There's interest inventory. So we kind of try to make sure there's lots of opportunities for the students to develop those social interaction skills because they're really important in future work. The next one, you'll see signs in the schedule of all the things we're trying to help them with as far as independent living skills, how to get their stuff that they need gathered up and to their classroom, and planning for those lessons and activities that are in the classroom. The last is occupational preparation, and this is a big one. We want the students to begin to think about the careers that are available to them, what skills they need. They're going to be working on developing their resume, improving their interview skills so that when they find that perfect job, they nail that interview. And next slide.
Okay, hi guys, it's Mandy Filippelli. I introduced myself in the chat as the occupational skills instructor with Country Roads, and you've heard from a couple other of the teachers there in the chat, letting you know what their focus areas are, and thanks to our participants that shared where they're coming from. It's nice to communicate who we have in the room. So I'm just going to spend a moment to talk about the different tracks that you can take when you enter Country Roads, and then you'll hear from me later when we talk about work sites and guest speakers. So you see a little diagram here that highlights a 2-year track that a student can choose, or a 4-year track that's more of the education advancement pathway. And so when you come into the Country Roads program, I think either Leslie or Lucy mentioned there's that year of living in the dorms, and then that subsequent year of living in college apartments somewhere on campus. And that's within that first 2-year track pathway. And you'll see there that the focus is employment advancement. And so Lucy just mentioned interest inventories, doing career assessments, and identifying what that career goal is going to be, whether you exit the program after 2 years or you continue longer. We focus a lot on the difference between a part-time job and a career, and what that looks like, and the steps that you need to take to achieve that. And so that would all occur in that first 2-year track. You see the icons along that arrow have things such as the core Country Roads classes, where we talked about things such as communication, writing, comprehension, time management, those kind of soft skills. Then we move into some workforce certifications. In the first year, we work on basic certifications like CPR and first aid. There's things that are going to help us no matter what our workplace is, or maybe just help us be better community members by having the knowledge and skills that we need to act in different situations. We take a nutrition class. You saw a photo earlier of some spinach hummus that the students made, and you heard Sam reference that he had learned to make some pies. So along with that, we do the food handler's card, which can be helpful across a lot of different jobs, whether you're going into childcare, hospitality, and just having general safety and knowledge of, caring for food and not getting sick when you're living by yourself. As you heard a lot of students talk about, they've been gaining those skills. On-campus and off-campus employment training is part of that that 2-year track, where we're doing job shadows, visiting work sites, and we'll explore that a little more. There's a slide that'll list some of our work site visits, but just getting more comfortable with showing up to work, knowing what the dress codes are, what to ask, whether to pack a lunch, just knowing those small details that we maybe take for granted because we've been in the workforce for a while. So helping those students gain those entry-level skills. And then, of course, the daily living opportunities, anything from learning how to do laundry. You heard the students say one of their biggest accomplishments is being able to just access things by bus or PRT, and having the skills to go out into the community and do the things that we want to do and the things that we enjoy. So at that time, a student can leave after that 2-year track. They've gained a lot of certificates, a lot of skills. Maybe they're ready for work, and furthering their education is not the goal at that time. So that student would exit the Country Roads that program at that time, and receive any referrals that they might need. For instance, maybe they're going to go to Division of Rehab Services for some job placement and some extended services. So we do try to package that as part of their plan if supports are needed as they exit the program. Alternately, you can continue your education into the 4-year track, in which case you would do things like go into some online certificate programs that WVU or maybe another institution offers, or you would go into a degreed program of study. We offer a lot of mock classrooms and opportunities to explore those career pathways. And so if it's appropriate for a student and they've got the study skills and the motivation to continue their education at that time, they would move into that more degreed or certificate-based pathway, and also be living independently on campus as they continue that education. So that's a quick look. Any questions about the 2 4-year track? And you can put them in the chat, or you can hold them to the end, whatever you're most comfortable with.
Okay, potential students. Go ahead and move the slide. You're muted.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, so a lot of people have already reached out and looked at our website, and we have left our application up from last year because it's a really good place to take a look at and get started on to see what our admissions criteria are, and to kind of start getting all of those materials in place to prepare for your application. We expect to open admissions for next fall's cohort before the end of the month. So you can keep an eye out on our website and our email lists for our admissions application to be open for the new application period. Those students that find that the Country Roads program isn't a perfect fit for them may also be eligible for 2 other programs at WVU, and we take a close look at that during our admissions committee meetings. And some students will find that the 1st-year pathway program at WVU is a great step right in, or some students are eligible for the WVU general admission. There's also other college programs around the state. And I see we have somebody here today from Marshall. So we look at the interests and skills, and we'll also make recommendations if there's a program that may be a better fit. So this is just a picture of some of our students here at our rec center. The WVU Rec Center is our student recreation center, for those of you that are not familiar with campus. And it's an indoor facility that has indoor swimming, basketball, racquetball, all different kinds of activities and fitness centers. And some of our students are now also getting jobs and working there. So our students, you heard that quite a bit in the video, they spend a lot of time. So this was them getting a tour on the work site.
Okay, I'm going to move on and talk about what will happen once if you're admitted to the program. So you can move the slide. The next slide is going to show us a typical schedule. Every week the students get a weekly schedule, and the weekly schedule shows the students where their different classes are located, what the classes are, who's teaching them. If you look at the schedule right now, you'll see that some of the block boxes are yellow. The yellow boxes are break or lunch or free. If you see a blue square, that usually means that there's something the students need to do on their own, although I notice here it's not that way. But the schedule is designed to show the students the times, the locations, and the activities for all their classes during the week. This schedule is found in a program called SOUL, and when students access their weekly schedule in SOUL, they can also see not only their schedule, but what assignments are due, any other important information, as well as their grades. We also follow the same academic calendar as WVU. The one thing I do want to point out with our schedule is because we really work to develop a program that's based on individual needs, a lot goes into the schedule. There's a great deal of variety in the classes, but there are some core classes. You know, students are taking classes in writing, in communications or speaking. They have classes to develop computer skills. So we're looking not only at career preparation or occupational preparation, but we're also building just really important skills that are going to help them throughout their entire career. All right, and I'm done there.
So hi, my name's Courtney. I also go by Court, and I am one of the instructors for our healthy relationships and healthy sexuality curriculum. But I'm also here to talk to you a little bit today about who we are comprised of. So you heard a little bit about what we do, but who is it that's executing this? So we're made up of a couple different teams. One's the advisory committee, which consists of people throughout the university, as well as some individuals outside the university to really help us move forward in our mission and drive that missions forward. In addition, there's an admissions committee, and there are some members on here on it that will begin to look at those applications, make those referrals, and all of that. The committee the team I really like to focus on is that core curriculum team. And many of us are on here, and it's those people that are actually executing a lot of those core classes, such as communication, Elevate Us, and all of those. So really, it's those individuals that have that one-on-one contact on a day-to-day basis with the students. There's also a lot of other individuals that are working with the students on a daily basis and on a weekly basis, such as Mandy's going to talk about some of our employment placements and academic placements that we've had throughout the university. The Rec Center was mentioned earlier today. That's one that they're really involved in, and that's one that they're getting a lot of different activities through, both recreational, social, and employment as well. And then the one that I'm probably the most excited about, because it's the one I deal with the most, and I believe Dr. Amy Burt's on here as well, or she heads up another component of this, and it's the peer mentoring. So we do bring in other university students to provide a lot of different supports and also a lot of friendship. So I head up the social peer mentors that really focus on providing just exactly that, some social outlets for them. They go bowling, they will help them with homework if they need help with homework, moving around campus, just really there to provide that interaction and that transition into the college setting. And then of course we have PT student or OT students, occupational therapy students that work on those skill-based things, such as laundry, note taking, all of those really fine core things. And then of course we also have some physical therapy, or not physical therapy, but some sports education students that work on physical education and health and wellness for them, identifying goals that they have, finding clubs that they may find interesting at the recreation center and throughout the university. So really we've tried to tap into not only the university's resources, but the larger Morgantown network to pull in those supports and provide opportunities for our students.
Okay, so here's just a few snapshots of some of our course examples that you might find in the span of a classroom day. And so you heard from Steve in the chat. He's part of Country Roads, and he's been helping the students navigate Excel and some of the tricks of that, and even just saving a file, with the correct name. We have a small group, but larger groups of students, if you were sorting through homework and you didn't have the appropriate file name on that assignment, you might lose credit because the teacher can't identify what student it came from. So even just, simple things like saving a file with the appropriate name for a homework assignment, we might focus on if it's something we're having difficulty with. So if you do move into that continued education, you have the skills you need to plug into those settings. Below that Microsoft application snapshot, you see a benefits management. We talk a lot about budgeting. We partner with WVU Extension to provide some financial literacy. And we also try to sprinkle that in our day-to-day interactions, even just through interactions with our students when they say, oh, I think I'll go to Papa John's tonight and get a pizza. And we might say, well, have you used all your meal swipes for the week? And just, managing those. I think Sam mentioned it in one of his accomplishments. It was mastering the meal plan, and knowing that if you spend those extra dollars for an iced coffee at McDonald's every morning, that it does add up over the span of a month or so. So budgeting is a big conversation for us, and that includes benefits, like Social Security and any of those public benefits that students might be utilizing. Courtney mentioned Elevatus. That's a sample screenshot up at the top there, communicating about sex. You're coming to campus, you're living independently for the first time, you're having maybe extra opportunities. And so Courtney and the team there with the peer mentors really help try to navigate some of those more intimate conversations and friendships and relationships that you might develop along the regular pathway on college campus and what goes along with that. And then Leslie had mentioned some exercises with writing, again, just getting you ready to plug into some other settings that may be your desired motivation or your career pathway, and just being able to look at and outline your thoughts and get your information down on paper. And then that last snapshot is from one of my classes, one of my favorite websites. If you're not familiar with ONET, visit it. If you're interested in learning more about jobs or you're not quite sure what you want to do, there's plenty of activities you can do on there, career assessments that help explore careers. Maybe you only know about a few careers that your close family members have worked in. So we talk a lot about who do we know, what do they do, and what other jobs do we know that are out there. It sounds like Peggy knows Elevatus, and Court put a little note in there just about navigating decision-making and risky situations. And we all know that every parent and guardian is a little nervous when sending their child off to campus. And so we try to recognize that and just nip it in the bud and have those conversations so that our students can have the best experience they're able to. Next slide, please. We mentioned guest speakers, and we saw a few photographs throughout the activities there. Here we have a few site visits and classroom lectures that we had. The top picture is another partnership with WVU Extension. They offered us the opportunity to learn about nutrition and healthy eating habits. And so you see their instructor there, Belinda Nicholas. I believe they are making some peppermint melts on pretzels there, a really simple, easy snack that they can do at home. We made a lot of things. I mentioned the spinach hummus, Sam mentioned the pies. We talk about the sugar content in beverages, and we look at each bottle and kind of just educate ourselves on what we might be drinking every morning, might be having ill effects on us. Bottom left picture there was a worksite visit that we took to Pace Enterprises here in Morgantown. They have a variety of training programs that we're in their secure area there where they do shredding documents for the whole state and some of the neighboring states. They also have some food service training and some other placement activities through DRS and other partnerships across the state. So they were a great networking resource for our students to be able to link up with. And then finally, that last picture was one of our guest speaker classroom lectures, and that's Natalie Tennant, who was the first female mountaineer. So she brought her musket and her mountaineer, her outfit that was made just for her. And she's, of course, now she's in politics. So she was able to tell the students kind of her pathway from her first job working on High Street at a florist to her time as Secretary of State and what skills that she learned as a teenager that have paved her pathway as a successful business person as an adult. And so we really love hearing from our guest speakers. Our favorite question is, what was your very first job? Because I think we learn a lot from our friends about where they started and what skills they put in their back pocket at that first job that got them where they are today. Next slide, thanks. So here's more of a comprehensive list. Of course, I couldn't share pictures of everything, but I am always snapping pictures. We do media releases, and Melina does a great job of making sure that our pictures get out there. Steve's a great advocate. You might see some articles across the state about country roads. So we do try to publicize and let everybody know what we're up to. And I do set up my guest speaker and site visits based on student interest. So at the beginning of the semester, we brainstorm, and I like to take them everywhere that they're interested in, plus, because again, if we only go after what we know, we're limiting our potential. So a big part of our conversations is that career exploration piece and taking them to places where maybe they would never think to go before and exploring what jobs exist there. So our guest speakers is the list on the left. We have a variety of agencies and advocacy groups that talk to us about resources and services that we may be eligible for. And then our host of guest speakers that are representing industries and employment situations. For instance, yesterday we visited Melissa Workman at the WVU Laboratory School, and that's the nursery school here on campus where they bring in the child development students to learn about teaching. And so she came to visit us in the classroom last semester. And then yesterday we followed up with a site visit to the nursery school, and the students, they really enjoyed it. Even the students that's not their career pathway, they were able to get a lot of experience and enjoyment out of working with the kids over at the nursery school. We're really excited for our Black Bears baseball tour coming up this spring. And then again, just whatever everybody's interested in, we try to explore those career pathways. So on the right, you see that we've got some folks interested in the baseball industry, childcare, police, and law enforcement, and then just some recreation opportunities such as stepping stones. Melina mentioned that we visited the Student Rec Center. We got to do a behind the scenes tour. That was really neat. They got to see stuff that they hadn't participated in as of yet as a student. So that gave them more exposure and more of a comfort level to access those activities. Next slide. Oh, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, I think, Leslie, we may have gotten you back. Are you still there?
I am. It keeps going in and out. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
That's great. Okay, thank you. So hopefully you get to see as you're watching this and meeting our team, what wonderful people they are. It's just a snapshot. They're awesome. They provide all kinds of support, interaction, friendship to our students on a regular basis. And our students give that same opportunity back to us. So this time is a time for you all to ask questions. That's it. We provided you an overview. So much to go into. And let me turn it back over and see what questions people have.
Don't be shy and feel free to unmute. All questions are good questions.
Hi,
This is,
go ahead, Peggy.
Sorry, I'm on a delay because of my internet is bad. So can you give us just an idea of what the criteria looks like?
And I already submit.
I think that there was two people talking at once. So there was one person that was asking about the criteria. So that would be, I'm thinking the admissions criteria. And so what we require is documentation of an intellectual disability with significant limitations in intellectual functioning by the AAIDD definition and/or a developmental disability. You must have completed 4 years of high school with a diploma, modified diploma, or GED. Must be between the ages of 18 and 26 years old by August 31st of this year. Have an IQ of less than 75 and/or a developmental disability, and have adult rights as a US citizen. We also look at priority for those who were eligible for IDEA services while in school, have the abilities to independently administer and manage their own medications and medical needs, abilities to live independently in the dorms. I think it's very important for everyone to know that our students do live in the dorms. They live in Lincoln Hall, which if you go to our website, you can see a great video. Lincoln Hall is an honors dorm, one of them on campus, on our Evansdale campus. And they live in the dorms with the other students. They have RAs that are on site, but you know, there's no one that's checking in to make sure that you're there on time and going to bed and getting up for class. So those are some of the things that we are looking for in terms of admissions criteria. And then I think there was another question somebody else had unmuted about submitting an application.
Yeah, that was me. I already submitted his application because he's really excited about going. He's graduating this year. He does have an IEP with Fairmont Senior. But I can resubmit the application, the new one, but would you keep his references? Because I hate to ask them to fill them out again.
Absolutely, Angela. I received your email just as I was starting the Zoom. We did receive that application and we discussed it, and that's fine. And I believe that Lucy is going to follow up with you regarding anything that would be changed or additional information that we're seeking for the next year. But all of those references, everything like that is still the same. So yeah, we're in good shape there.
Melina, we've answered some of the questions in the chat. What is the average age of students in the program? Right now, it's we range from 19 to 25. So I saw that question. And what preparation do they have that is high school? Can we clarify that question? Everyone has graduated from high school as far as that goes. So they've all had different levels of preparation depending on maybe what region, what their home county is. I'm not sure if that's answering your question, Catherine. And then
just to follow up on that, Mandy, some applicants have had modified diplomas, and that is definitely okay and welcome. And we review those at the same time. And then really going back to some of the criteria, we look at items within the application, just kind of supporting the independent skills that they might have and the independence they exhibit to things like if they have a medical regimen, a certain, you know, they take medicine at a certain time or any other procedures. They're able to do that largely on their own. And we can get into that a little bit more later.
And that's what Melina mentioned, that nobody's really, you know, you're there, you're living in the dorm independently. So like Leslie mentioned, that medical regimen, making sure, you know, daily hygiene, eating healthy so you're not feeling poorly, that's all really important stuff. And along with that modified diploma option, Leslie, the next question, and I'm guessing, I'm not sure which one, but I'm sure we'd be willing, would a representative be available to attend an IEP meeting to discuss the program with parents or participate on the phone? I imagine that would be a yes.
That would be a yes. I was starting to put it in the chat and then I lost it. You know, time willing, and many times we're in the classroom and with the students elsewhere. But if we can, we have generally attempted to be there to answer questions and give people the information they need.
Good, thank you. And then I think the only other question we haven't gotten to yet is from Sharon Martin's computer, and it's how do they pick my roommate? We had even numbers this year. We had 4 students and they were 2 female and 2 male. So it worked out really nicely that our Country Roads students do share a room, and there's suites. So there's 2 people and a bathroom in the middle and 2 people on the other side. So depending on how large our group is, that would get modified a little bit. We had very even numbers this year, and those, I don't believe our roommate selections were based on anything other than gender, but our Country Roads students do room together, but again in the Lincoln Hall, the honors dorm. So you know, they've got the same resident assistant, the RA, as to the students in the hallway, and everyone's just hanging out, living together in those halls.
They get a lot of applications where they increase them.
There was a question about opportunities to tour the campus. And all of our tours, we route through the WVU Visitor Center, which if you just go to visit.wvu.edu, there's places there where you can click on tours. There are on-campus tours, there are online tours, self-guided tours. Pretty much every weekday, it looks like Monday through Friday, you can come. There's Saturday tours. There's something for everyone there to really get a good feel of what campus is and get the opportunity to learn more about Morgantown for those of you that aren't here and aren't familiar with WVU.
I'm gonna type it.
I saw there was a question about signing up for gaming club, and I saw Justin Ray said peer mentors can help identify any clubs and get you engaged in those. So that would be a fun one.
And
I'm
Melina, I
glad
just
you
have to-
mentioned that. Oh, sorry, Leslie.
I was just going to mention, every time this comes up, the Cheese Club exists, but we have yet to find it. There are so many clubs. It's wonderful. I just wanted to mention that.
I'm willing to join the Cheese Club with any student. And we
And
do, we
I am-
really,
I am so
you joining
surprised
it?
Michael has not found it because he's always talking about it.
and I'm glad you guys mentioned that because we really encourage our students. You saw them mention Up All Night and being able to get around, but we really push you to engage. You know, if you're here for the 2-year track or 4-year track, make the most of your experience on campus. Sam was interested in joining the Quidditch team, which is the sport from the Harry Potter movies. They have a Quidditch team at WVU. So if there's something you're interested in, it's going to be available somewhere on campus. You know, from Bible Club to Quidditch, you're going to find something that you want to engage in. But it takes effort. You have to seek it out. You have to figure out how to get there. You have to remember to go. And so that's been a little bit of a push with the students because they're keeping up with their regular schedule. They're doing their homework. And so sometimes they're just tired, but they might say, oh, I really wanted to go to the mountain there and bowl. And so we really try to say, you know, if it's something you want to do, we're not just here to work. We're here to fully experience what the campus has to offer. So definitely join that gaming club.
So Mandy, there's another question, which is a good question from Todd in the chat. Could you provide some context to what the structure and support environment is like at the start of a term as a student transitions to independent dorm living? And I think that's a great question, Todd. And what we do is a very staggered approach. So in the beginning, we are there when you're moving in. We're meeting you in the morning, say outside of the dorm, saying, you know, okay, our first class is downtown. We're going to walk together to the PRT. We're going to figure out which PRT. We're going to learn together how to get on the PRT and swipe our cards. We're going to figure out which stops we're supposed to get off and how to navigate. So we do that in the beginning for the first week. Everywhere we go, there's faculty there that's taking them around. We participate in all the WVU Welcome Week activities. So they have the food truck rally. They have all kinds of things at the football stadium for the welcome. We do it all, and we ask all the students what they're interested in participating in. And this year the students wanted to do it all. So we took that opportunity to learn our way around campus. As the week went on, we let them start leading and showing us the way, because we quickly learned, myself included. I was there the first morning to meet the students, to pick them up and walk with them. And as I was getting there, here they were coming from across campus. They had already gone to Starbucks and figured things out all the way. So they were showing me much quicker than I was showing them different routes around campus. So then as the week goes on, they start leading, and then we start saying, okay, well, you need to be there at this time. We'll meet you there. You know, we'll meet you at the PRT. We'll meet you at class. And so it's very much a progressive approach to letting them figure things out in a safe way. And they figured it out much quicker than any of us probably who hadn't been on campus for a while had. So it was It was a good question. And, you know, there were things that we had to remember, like WVU, for those of you that aren't familiar, it's a big campus and there's a lot of walking and a lot of hills. And so there's a lot of lessons that when you leave your dorm room, you need to be wearing comfortable shoes. You need to be bringing an umbrella. The first week this year, it rained a lot. So there was a lot of students that were, you know, having to go back and get their umbrella. So we prepared an out the door checklist that went on the back of everybody's dorm room door on day 2 and gave them a dry erase marker for them to check off. Do I have my backpack? Do I have my swipe card? Do I have my water bottle? Everybody was thirsty by the end of, you know, the first hour of walking across campus. Students learned those quick lessons about wearing proper shoes when they were walking. And students that needed to use the accessible vans for transportation, we were working with that as well. So lots of transitions into that independent dorm living. And then, of course, we talked about the OT students, helping them learn the lessons of organizing your desk, organizing your notebook, cleaning your room. I see a question about how many new students that Leslie answered, up to 8 students each year. What is the cost of the program?
Melina, I want to just note one thing before we move on from that independent living, is that these RAs, they don't necessarily have any more responsibility over the Country Roads students than they do any other student. They're there to provide dorm-based assistance, but they're not there to be like an overseer or a direct assistant or anything like that. So that's where, if you are considering this program, you have to consider, is that am I or my child at a level of independence where they can live in the dorms independently, maintain their own hygiene without having to be prompted by anyone, getting all of those things that they would have to be able to do prior to coming here. Of course, we would provide support such as the OT students to come in and work on fine tuning, like laundry skills, things like that. But there has to be a base level of independence, especially when it comes to downtime, because we don't structure any activities over the weekends. That's all on their own. And the same thing with after classes. You see where our schedule ends at like 4:30 in the evening. All of those are on their own. So they would have to have that level of independence as well.
And I also wanted to mention that we have a 24-hour teacher on call line, because those RAs aren't any more responsible for our students than they are the rest of the students in the dorm. And we do realize that we may have some unmet needs. I don't think we started the semester with our on-call line, but we recognized that it would be something that would be helpful and necessary. And so the students have had that number since day one and have used it. So that's good. And we talk about when to use that and recognizing if it's an emergency, you know, is this a 911 situation? Is this a phone a friend, or is this a call a teacher? And that goes along with that risk assessment and decision making. And I know we had some questions about cost and financial aid, and I'll start with the fact that Division of Rehab Services is the great place to start to get your referral if you don't already have a case, because they are able to support that higher education goal, that post-secondary education goal. And that may look different depending on your 2-year track or your 4-year track, because the 2-year track is not going to have those degreed credit associated with them. But if you move in past the 2-year track, that may involve some certificate fees or credit fees in that case. And then I'll defer to Leslie on the further financial aid, but we're working on becoming a comprehensive transition program, which, if you're familiar with those, they're across the country, and they're programs that are supported in inclusive settings like Country Roads. A great website is Think College. You can review all the accredited programs across the country and find contact information. You'll find us on there. Are approved as a comprehensive transition program, at that point we'll be eligible for FAFSA funding. At this time, everybody has to complete the FAFSA form as part of the process, especially if you're enrolled with your Division of Rehabilitation Services counselor. That's how they determine if they're able to provide support. So we're looking to expand those financial supports. Right now, your first line of defense is your Division of Rehabilitation Services Counselor. If you're in a different state, it may be DOORS or BR. It may have a different name associated with it, but it's your rehab counselors. And beyond that, we have financial aid here at WVU that work with the families. Again, you've got to complete that FAFSA, and hopefully we'll be expanding those funding abilities. We also hope to add workforce monies, individualized training accounts once we get those other pieces in place where we may be able to utilize some of this workforce money to help support those costs. And I don't know if someone else, I don't know that we have the fees for this coming semester yet. I'll defer to someone else.
You said you set it up beautifully, Andy. I appreciate you doing that. I think the only other piece to the application is that, you know, every program within the university, any university, needs to be reviewed, vetted, and approved by the Board of Governors and other groups, provost office, and things of that sort. And that's about where we are. Once we're able to do that, modify if needed, and get it approved, what you find is that first 2 years curriculum now provides accredited credit hours. And then that's where your financial aid begins to kick in, with Country Roads being listed as one of the options within WVU. Right now, that's in the process. So those options that Mandy's listed are the options right now. Financial aid in other methods will hopefully come soon, maybe in the spring semester, would not likely be for the fall, at least. And so Melina's been working hard getting our website updated with new numbers, but that currently focuses on housing, special fees related to living on campus and so forth, and those kinds, rather than tuition. But that will come once accredited hours and financial aid for that tuition will come as well, hopefully soon.
What do kids do on weekends? What do you want to know?
So, Leslie, there's a question in the chat about is tuition reimbursement available to WVU employees for dependents?
That's a really good thing to explore. Right now, it is not. We're such a new program that those two, the program and that opportunity has not been connected, but that is a very good question that we will get onto.
You already know.
We would be very supportive of that.
Wonderful. We'll come back to you.
There's another question, and just to not leave the tuition and fees cost hang question out there. Currently, right now, the students are being assessed the housing fees to live in the dorms, which are the same as other students at WVU. They also are assessed to the meal plan, which those are outlined on the WVU website as well. Students can pick from any of the meal plans. And then the student fees that are associated with having your ID and being able to get onto the PRT, access the student events and other things that are associated with that. So those are the current fees that are being assessed until the tuition is ready. There's also a question about our DRS rep talks a lot about ACT, SAT scores and ties them to supporting our students. Would they be required for the 2-year pathway students? Mandy, do you know about that for DRS?
Well, just to clarify, are you talking about the alternate pathway? You're not talking about Country Roads, Jennifer?
I believe she was talking about the Country
Oh,
Roads.
okay. Okay. If you're talking about the 2-year track for Country Roads, we do not use ACT, SAT as part of our eligibility process. But if you were going into the degree program beyond those 2 years, you would be held to the same standard of that program of study at WVU. So yeah, we do not use, Melina had listed all those eligibility factors, and SAT and ACT, that's kind of the workaround that that is Country Roads, that you do not meet the typical criteria to be accepted into the WVU degree programs. Sure, no problem.
These are all great questions. I have that it's 1 minute after 5, so I do want to be sensitive to everyone's time. So if you have other questions, let us know right now. We don't want to cut anyone off, but we don't want to keep anyone hanging on either.
I think
We had
there is
another
one more
timeline question there from William. Sorry, I think I cut you off, Justin Ray.
When will we find out if we are accepted? So great question, William. What we're doing now is, like I said, we're going to open up the admissions process, and all applications are due by April 1st. Our admissions committee will review applicants and get in touch with them hopefully by the end of April for their interviews, and selection will be determined right after that. So by the summer, early summer, you will know if you've been accepted into the program and be able to start getting your mountaineer gear ready. Okay, well, listen, we appreciate all of you today, and please let us know. I think all of you have my contact information or Lucy's or our Country Roads email address. It's always, as soon as you get off later on, you think of, oh, I should have asked this. All questions are good questions. Send them in an email to us and we'll be sure to get back to you soon. Let us know how we can get you here to campus. We are looking forward to a great next cohort coming to campus in the fall. Thank you all for your time. You have a nice weekend.